The woman in the magenta blazer wasn't supposed to be there, or so they thought. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to return to the main cabin. Karoline Leavitt stopped mid-step, stunned, her first-class boarding pass still in her hand. The silence that fell over the luxurious cabin of Liberty Air was instant and suffocating. She blinked. Excuse me? The flight attendant's tone was sharp and rehearsed, like someone who delivered lines like this before. This section is reserved for first-class passengers. A hush spread like wildfire. Newspaper pages froze mid-flip. Champagne flutes paused halfway to lips. Every passenger turned, appraising Karoline like a misplaced coat on a designer runway. Karoline's voice remained calm. I am in the right section. Seat 2A. The attendant, Amanda Reynolds, according to the gold tag pinned perfectly to her chest, offered a tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. She took the boarding pass between two manicured fingers, as if the paper itself were offensive. This has to be a mistake. No, it's not, Karoline said evenly. Amanda glanced at Karoline's bold magenta blazer, crisp white blouse, and modest jewelry. No Chanel. No Birkin. Just quiet elegance, now dressed in unapologetic color. The kind that gets mistaken for invisibility in a room full of noise. A man in a sharp gray suit leaned out into the aisle, smirking. Probably slipped past TSA, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. They're letting anyone up here now. Someone behind Karoline actually laughed. A couple in matching designer sweats took out their phones, pretending to check something while clearly recording. Amanda folded the ticket. Please wait while I check with the gate. Karoline's stomach churned. Not with doubt, but with disbelief. She had flown this airline for years. Served in this uniform. She knew what was happening. She just never thought it would happen to her. What no one in that cabin knew. Not the man with the cufflinks, not Amanda with her smirk, not the woman in the diamond necklace now whispering into her wineglass, was that Karoline Leavitt didn't just have a right to be there. She could buy the damn plane. Because in less than 60 seconds, Nicholas Riccio, CEO of Liberty Air, her husband and the man who built this airline from the ground up, was going to step onto that plane. And nothing about this flight would be the same. Karoline didn't flinch, even as Amanda turned on her heel and whispered something sharp to a second attendant near the galley. A murmur of discomfort, or maybe anticipation, rippled through the cabin. People smelled drama. The kind you tell your friends about later. First class had become theater. She adjusted the silver watch on her wrist, sleek, minimalist, unmistakably custom. Nicholas had given it to her 5 years ago, on the anniversary of the night they met, back when she was still wearing Liberty Air blue and pouring ginger ale into plastic cups. Back when she wasn't the wife of the most powerful man in aviation. But she didn't want to be recognized as his wife. She had built a name on her own terms, running one of the most successful nonprofit foundations in New York City, creating safe spaces for girls who'd grown up like her. Quiet. Overlooked. Told they didn't belong. The irony now burned like acid in her throat. Behind her, someone sighed loudly. Can we please move this along? I have a shareholders meeting in Chicago, muttered a man without looking up from his tablet. The woman with the diamond necklace leaned in to the guy beside her. She's probably hoping her boyfriend's in business class. Karoline's face flushed, but her voice stayed steady. I'm exactly where I belong. The words were barely out of her mouth when the cabin door reopened with a soft click. Heads turned again. Footsteps echoed, slow, sure, and far too confident for a passenger late to a flight. Nicholas Riccio stepped onto the aircraft. The temperature shifted. At 6 feet 3 inches, with a tailored black suit and a presence that commanded attention like gravity itself, Nicholas didn't have to say a word. His salt and pepper hair was cut short, his jaw sharp, his steel-gray eyes sweeping the cabin like radar. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. Karoline, he said, his voice low and warm. Is there a problem? The tension in the cabin snapped like a wire pulled too tight. Amanda froze mid-step. The color drained from her face like a tide retreating. The manager, David, if Karoline remembered correctly, appeared from nowhere, suddenly fumbling with his tablet. Mr. Riccio, sir, we were just resolving a small situation. Nicholas's eyes didn't leave Amanda's. A situation? Amanda opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She blinked fast, as if trying to reboot her entire understanding of reality. Nicholas looked down at Karoline's boarding pass still clutched in Amanda's hand. He took it slowly, turned it over. Seat 2A, he said, then smiled faintly. That's her seat. My wife's. It was quiet enough to hear someone swallow. A sharp gasp came from the couple with matching sweats. The man with the cufflinks set down his financial newspaper, his mouth slightly open. Amanda took a step back, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't know. You didn't ask, Nicholas replied coolly. Then, louder, addressing the full cabin. This woman, who is just humiliated in front of all of you, is Karoline Leavitt, my wife, and the co-founder of Liberty's Community Outreach Division. She helped raise the capital that built this very aircraft. Karoline's hands trembled, just a little. Not from nerves. From release. The injustice had bloomed inside her like fire, and now, it burned clean. Nicholas turned to David. This is what happens when you judge people based on appearances instead of merit. Remind me, how many times have we trained for this exact scenario in orientation? David was sweating now. Many times, sir. Clearly not enough. He looked back at Amanda, who stood stiff, pale, cornered. You're lucky Karoline has more grace than I do. But moving forward, every Liberty employee, from intern to executive, will undergo mandatory bias and service retraining. Then Nicholas leaned slightly closer to Amanda, his voice dropping just enough to draw every ear in the room. And you'll be first. The rest of the flight passed in a silence that wasn't really silence. It was the heavy, loaded kind. Every champagne pour, every careful glance, every cleared throat echoed with the weight of earlier judgment. Karoline sat in two-way, her back straight, her head high. Amanda moved with robotic precision. Gone was the clipped confidence. She avoided eye contact like the cabin lights had gone too bright to bear. Every "can I get you anything, ma'am?" was soaked in shame. Karoline didn't take pleasure in it. Not really. She accepted her sparkling water with a small nod. Thank you. Nicholas sat across the aisle in 2B, legs crossed, scrolling calmly through emails on his phone like he hadn't just rerouted the emotional course of an entire cabin. Every so often, though, he looked at her, really looked at her, with a softness that belonged to the man she knew, not the billionaire who owned half of the sky. When the flight landed in Chicago, the captain made a point to personally thank Mrs. Leavitt for flying with Liberty. Amanda stood near the exit like a student waiting for detention, her once perfect uniform now rumpled, her smile brittle. Karoline gave her a look, not cruel, but clear. You'll grow from this. Or you won't. But this will stay with you. The black SUV waiting on the tarmac was silent for a few moments after they got in. Karoline stared out the window at the bustling lights of O'Hare, her hand resting absently on Nicholas's. You didn't have to do that, she said finally. I did, he replied. And not because you're my wife. He turned toward her. I did it because I've seen you spend years building something real, with integrity. You've done more for this company and its people off the payroll than half my VPs have with a six-figure salary. Karoline exhaled. I just hate that it always comes back to your name. I want to be seen for who I am, not who I married. I know. He nodded. That's why I'm offering you something that's yours, Karoline. No strings. No handouts. She turned to him slowly. Nicholas pulled a small leather folder from his briefcase and slid it into her lap. Inside, a job offer. Senior Vice President of Customer Experience, Liberty Airlines. Reporting only to the CEO. Autonomy. Budget. Real influence. I had this ready before the flight, he said. Today just confirmed how badly we need someone like you. Someone who knows what empathy looks like from both sides of the aisle. Karoline stared at the title for a moment. Nicholas, her voice caught. This isn't just a position. It's a mission. I know, he said. And it's yours if you want it. She looked out at the city skyline. The little girl who'd once flown standby with her mom from New Hampshire to New York, sitting in coach with a juice box and big dreams, would have cried if she saw this moment. Maybe she still would. Karoline turned to him and smiled. For real this time. I'll take it. 6 months later, Karoline Leavitt stood just outside the glass doors of Liberty Airlines headquarters in downtown Chicago. A sleek brass plaque gleamed beside her. Senior VP of Customer Experience, Karoline L. Riccio. She took a deep breath, not from nerves but pride. Inside, the energy was electric. Screens showed real-time passenger feedback. A new team had been assembled, diverse, passionate, and focused on rebuilding the soul of Liberty's service from the ground up. And today marked the launch of her initiative. Every seat tells a story, a program built to train staff in empathy, active listening, and the emotional intelligence that couldn't be taught in manuals. In the audience sat Amanda Reynolds, now in a more junior role, but visibly changed. She listened closely, took notes, and when Karoline caught her eye, Amanda nodded, respectful, humble. Maybe she'd grown. Maybe she'd keep growing. Karoline's voice was confident as she addressed the staff. We don't serve passengers. We serve people with stories, struggles, and strength you can't always see. It's not just about tickets. It's about dignity. Applause broke out. Not polite. Genuine. Later that evening, Karoline and Nicholas sat side by side on a quiet bench along Lake Michigan, sipping coffee, watching the sun drop behind the skyline. Her watch, the one he gave her all those years ago, still hugged her wrist, ticking softly. You changed the culture, Nicholas said, glancing at her. You did that. Karoline leaned her head against his shoulder. We all deserve to be seen for who we really are. Not our clothes. Not our connections. Just us. He smiled. So, what now? Karoline looked out at the darkening sky, the hum of planes above like whispers of the past. Now, she said, I teach people how to fly without wings and still soar.